Hello, this is Kevin Cahill from Fairleigh Dickinson University. I had a question pertaining to the 10+ thousand pieces of space junk in the outer space. Now, is there any system of removing them from the atmosphere, or do we just have to wait until they fall down by themselves?
Second question.
Hi, my name is Javier Villegas from FFDU. My question is similar to his. I believe it was Marshall Kaplan who was offered a job to retrieve Sputnik by some way of towing these satellites down. Is this a process that is still being used today?
Okay, basically both questions relate to cleaning up the junk or the satellites that have outlived their utility. In other words, do we have a vacuum cleaner for outer space?
These are all good questions, but the answer, I'm afraid, is very discouraging. No, there is really no vacuum cleaner in outer space. The vacuum cleaner we have in outer space is called gravity. That's about it. Now, in order to vacuum something up, you have to see it. And our current monitoring capabilities on Earth are that we can see in low Earth orbit something around the size of between 5 and 10 centimeters. That's about the width of your hand, maybe, a little more than 4 inches long. But when you get out into geostationary orbit, which is way out, it's beyond 1,000 miles, it's satellites that stay above one point on Earth as the Earth turns. That's called geostationary. The most we can see is 1 meter at those distances. And so there's a lot of, you can't retrieve what you can't see. And so that's another problem that's encountered. So what the world community has tried to do is to rely on what's called transparency. They try to share information about what states have launched through means of this registry of launch of satellites. And then they try to share data on what is known about space debris, where it is, how big it is, whatever information they have on its location and speed, they will try to share it among the international community. But that's about all they can do right now, is try to help each other to avoid collisions about known objects rather than any issue of retrieval. Another interesting thing to keep in mind is that it's almost impossible to repair a damaged satellite. It's been done before. We've had spacewalks and going out and fixing the Hubble telescope, for example. There are examples of that, but they're extremely expensive, risky, and in almost all of the other satellites, it's basically out of the question. So once something is up there and it doesn't work, or it gets in a bad orbit or something, you have to rely on gravity to solve the problem.
So we can't use the same technique that we use for dogs on Earth, which is to have a human being with a plastic bag going behind them in order to pick up any debris that they want to leave. Over to, we are dropping Lockhaven, but I'll come back and ask you at the end whether Lockhaven is back online. So let's go to Mercy College for 2 questions from Mercy.
Hi, my name is Marion Ben-Jacob. I'm the director of the Faculty Center for Teaching and Learning here at Mercy. And I want to say here at Mercy we have a significant number of students who have taken part in today's video conference, which I'm very happy about. As Ambassador Kamal said, the future of outer space is in their hands. What type of advice would you like to give to our students?
Second question.
Yes, hi, my name is Ralph Stavitz from Mercy College. What I find most disturbing, and I'm kind of seconding what Ambassador Kamal said, was not only do we not have any rules or regulations about space, I kind of knew that coming in, but it's what's even more fundamentally disturbing is the fact that we don't even know, we haven't even agreed upon what approach to take. For example, I see 3 general concepts or approaches, as mentioned by Mr. Rydell. We have the code of conduct, approach, we have a treaty approach, and then actually there's a third, which is international law. And we have to begin by even deciding which approach the world should take. It seems like international law would be the most rigorous, but I'm not sure of that, because treaties are always broken, like the treaty we just broke with the ABM. The United States broke with the ABM because we decided to go a Star Wars route. So treaties are always broken. Code of conduct is really very unique to a particular country, how they want to behave. So it seems like international law would be the best, but it's probably also the most difficult to do. So what I'm asking is, has there been any movement towards actual international law?
Thank you very much. These are very interesting comments from Mercy College, both of them, and they are linked. And I think we need to discuss them between you and me, because it appears to me that if we are going to base ourselves on the state, that is to say on governments, which is more or less what the second comment is asking for, international law, then you're not going to get it. Because states have a vested interest in not agreeing to a regulation of outer space. But that's where the first question then becomes important, which is what advice? The advice that I would like to suggest to Mercy and to you is trust the students more than you trust the governments. Let them talk about it. Let them think about it. They may be able, as civil society, to put greater pressure on governments in order to have a more secure future for themselves and for their children and grandchildren out of the dangers of outer space. What would be your reaction to my comment?
Oh, I think that's it's really it's a classic answer you've given. Before coming back to this, though, I want to take issue with one of the points raised in the second question. I think it would be tempting, but a grave mistake, to say there are no rules in outer space. There are rules. The Outer Space Treaty makes it very clear that the principles and norms of international law, that international law itself and the law of the UN Charter applies in space as it does on Earth. Now, as I said earlier, these are acts in progress. We don't have an ability to enforce this law, and the law is an emerging organic concept that needs to be built on. But you're not technically allowed to go into space and threaten another country's assets or attack them, because that's flatly inconsistent with the Outer Space Treaty and, by derivation, the UN Charter and international law. So there are some laws.
But I interrupt you. I don't have to threaten you in outer space. I just have to be there. And my being there is enough of a threat to you.
Yeah, it's a point well taken. Many people, for example, say that it's an existential threat. If I have nuclear weapons, I don't need to use them against you in order to have them be useful. I can use my nuclear weapons as a threat, or as an implicit threat. And the same kind of logic applies in space. If I have the capability of destroying your military's vision in space, then I am inherently posing a threat to you. So I agree with that. That's true. Now, I do think that when it comes to what to do next, the first thing is that I think it's so important that students don't get intimidated by this issue, either because of its technical difficulty, it's too scientific, oh, it's got too much technology involved, I'll never understand this, or otherwise they'll say, who am I? I'm just an individual. I can't possibly have any effect on this. Any profession can make a contribution to this issue, whether you don't have to be a rocket scientist, so-called.